You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And yes, it is showtime once again. Welcome to another episode of From the Desk of Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee here. And this might be a relatively short show because it is one of those even more topics that may get me canceled type shows here. So there's a couple of things that's been on my mind that we're going to talk about in addition to all the other nice stuff that we deal with here. And yep, we already got some dissension here, but nevertheless, it is what it is here. We're going to do a few things here. Yep, here I am. I am actually here. So let's go ahead and get the business ends of things out the way before we could go ahead and start the show the right way. So we got to make certain that people know that Stupid O'Clock happens 1 hour into our show here. And they're actually celebrating their 6th anniversary. They're having their 6th anniversary show, I think, tonight here. So I got invited to that here. I'm not certain if I'm going to pop in or not, but we're going to do our normal show here because they do, stay up until very, very late here. And that's followed up by Last Man Standing. And then you got Nevermind the Furthermore coming this upcoming Monday. And yes, there will be another Comic Book Spectrum this Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern here. And nevertheless, we got things to do and everything, and they're going, oh yeah, like Kool-Aid Man and Titania coming through the courtroom wall like that, like Kool-Aid Man and everything. So we are going to get things started here because it is that time once again, because we got a very short little stack of books that we have to go over for new comic book pickups for the week here. We got that together and everything here. So while we are dealing with new comic book pickups for the week, I am actually going to put this poll up. And you can see that on the screen as a whole here. And we're going to have the actual chat right there for people to be able to know that, we are receiving all your chats and everything. So you can holler and you can see what everybody's talking about all at the same time here. But the poll that we got right over here is because we finished a couple of series that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. I'm asking you, which one should we attempt to follow up more closely now? The same way that we've been doing with like the Wonder Woman, the Film Force, the Mr. Miracle and everything. Because Mr. Miracle is done. Spider-Woman is done. We're almost done with the X-Men. Well, I should say with the Uncanny X-Men. And we're almost done with the second series of X-Men here. We're nowhere close with Wonder Woman because the Wonder Woman we're going backwards. We're going older. With the X-Men and stuff, we're dealing with the newer books, which was a little bit easier to get. So we got Will Eisner's The Spirit. We got Ghost from Dark Horse. We got Josie and the Pussycats. I combined them both because they're still technically one series. And then we got all of Jughead here. So you have a vote in which one gets updated more often here, and we could do the updates the same way that we did all the other ones here for that way. It's about accountability for the collection and everything here. Now, mind you, there's multiple things that I do collect here, And to simply vote, only thing you have to do is put in a number associated with your choice here. If you type in the number 1, you get the Spirit. Number 2 is Ghost. Number 3 is Josie and Josie and the Pussycats. And number 4 is actually Jughead here. And we're seeing here that it's like, yeah, I got this week Uncanny 26 with no skinny roll from Rivals. So we got, so we got a vote for Ghost here. So Ghost, and the reason why these get picked up on more so because they run multiple volumes. And in that way, because it runs multiple volumes, it's not something that's an easy one and done, or I just have one good week and just was able to find a good lot of these books. It won't be wiped out that quickly, or at least completed that quickly here. So we got to vote for Ghost here. So we're going to take a look into getting that graphic and everything set up, and we're going to go into having accountability for Ghost so far, but it doesn't have to be that. You guys have to pick, like I said, you guys pick over the course of the action here, but let's get to these books here. We're going to start out with a Wonder Woman 250. If people think that 250 is not a key, it actually is a key. It's a minor key because this is the first time that Orana becomes Wonder Woman for the very first time here. And this was kind of like a very short series because it's like 250, 251, and 252, because I believe 252 Orana dies. But yes, Orana actually beats Diana in the contest and became the next Wonder Woman back in the days here. So we got the so-called Whitman variant, the direct variant here because of what they have right down there. That's the direct one here. The one with the DC Bullet logo, I believe, is the newsstand. So this is the Whitman Direct of 250. And then we're going to follow up with a Flash issue that was a freebie here, which is Flash 260. So, I used to collect more modern Flash. When I say more modern Flash, I'm talking about Flash in like the late 90s, early 2000s. The older Flash, it was just like books that I really just didn't care too much for as much here. Like where a lot of people love Barry Allen, I actually was more fond of Wally West. And not to say that Wally West is my Flash, but it's like I have appreciation for all of them. But if I have to choose one, it's like in a battle, it's like I'd rather have Wally than all the other ones on my side here. And then, yes, I was able to pick up a very good copy of this here, thanks to Bryce Comics here. I finally got First Silver Sable. Yes, that is an Amazing Spider-Man 265. I'm not sure if the camera could get it without the glare, but that is a nice little spine and everything. It's a nice, pretty copy. It is grade worthy, a grade worthy copy of First Silver Sable. And then we got Superwoman number 1. So we got Superwoman number 1 here from Rebirth. And then we finally got I think this is like First Honey Badger or something like that with All New Wolverine 28 from Volume 1. And then we're going to kick it old school style, very, very old school style with Nyoko the Jungle Girl number 76. Now, I know people up here are like, why Nyoko the Jungle Girl? Because I have all the issues from AC Comics, and just, it finally dawned on me. It's like the AC Comics were really more or less like almost reprints of the original series from back in the day here. So I was able to come across this one, and surprisingly enough, I actually won this on auction for like $2. Not begrudgingly, I was like, it was a shocking surprise here because this is not a cheap book by no means. Books from like the 1940s are not, 40s and 50s are not cheap. Then we got another Wonder Woman 600. To me, this is meh. I have several copies of this here, Wonder Woman 600, so that's kind of meh. Then we got a nice little roll roll not in the best condition here, but it's a good reader of Justice League 44. And then we got some, I think it's more than one. Yeah, there we go. We got some Panthers number ones here. So we got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles homage here. And yes, we're going to do homage. Slowly I turn, inch by inch, step by step. And we're going to say, we need to stop doing that. We need to get more original covers, just like homage. Slowly I turn. Yes, but yeah, another Panther number one homage cover. This, everybody knows the ASM 300 homage. But it is what it is. Then we got Vampirella 22. This is another copy of Vampirella 22 here. I believe this is from Dynamite Volume 1. No, Volume 2. That's if my memory serves me correct here. And then I was surprised that I was able to find this one here. This was Slayer Special number 1 for those who like the manga side of things here. And then we got one of the mini copies of X-Men number 1, the Gatefold E cover. And, everybody's like, oh, it's a number 1, this, that, and the other. It's like they don't realize they printed millions of these. These are not as rare as they think here. It's very sought after if you can find a 9/8, but it's not rare. And then I was able to get a Miss Fury from Adventure Comics number 1. So I did not know Adventure Comics did Miss Fury. So, getting the first issue of that made sense to me and everything to that magnitude. And then we got a Thor 193. This is one of those freebies here. It does need to get pressed. It got a line going down here, but it is a perfect bound Thor here. So that's a good sign here. But, it needs to be cleaned and pressed. Not really a gradable copy, but it's serviceable. I'm going to save that one for last here. Well, last as far as the actual raw books is concerned here. Then we got a Supergirl number 5 from the first volume of Supergirl. Now I have to go back into storage to see how many of these I actually have. Not issue number 5, but from volume 1 of Supergirl when she finally got her own series here. So it's like when I seen it, it's like, oh, she's on a planet with green aliens and everything. And this one kind of reminds me of Beast Boy right here, but it's like, no, that's not Beast Boy. It just green alien people, and she's on their planet and everything here. So nice little copy of that. And then when I saw it, I was like, you know what? I just got to go ahead and bite the bullet, pay the markup for it to snag it from other people here. We got the DC Comics 75 Taco Bell ash can of Wonder Woman. So yes, this is a nice copy here. This is the nice gradable one too. So this might be on my grading list as far as things to take to the graders next year, outside of the stuff that I do for sketch covers and everything to that magnitude. So that's all the raw books. And we do have one slab. And that one slab happens to be Miss Marvel number 1, the first, let's see. Yeah. This is where Kamala Khan becomes the new Miss Marvel. So we got that in a 9/2. And we got this actually for the low price of $25 before shipping. So smart little purchase here. Happy about that. That goes into my slab collection as a whole here. And that brings us to the end of new comic book pickups for the week here. So that's a great thing here. So we're going to leave the poll up a little bit longer here. So we still got people, if you still want to vote as far as what is, which books you want me to start analyzing and collect, doing the same collector's update like I did before. Those are the 4 options here. It looks like so far Ghost is the one that is winning, which is great. Speaking of which, it is time for us to go into the collector's update here. We got no updates for Film Force as of yet here. We're still paying off on our newer books here. So the Uncanny X-Men were actually going to change here. I do have more issues of Uncanny X-Men coming, so I just haven't been able to update the volume 6 type stuff as of yet here. And I still need to find 20 and 22 for volume 5 here to have everything up to volume 5. Wonder Woman update, we still 106 issues away. I'm trying to track down a decent copy of 128. I believe that is the next one. Or is it 129? It's probably 129 because if I'm saying 130. Matter of fact, hold on. I believe it is 128, but I could be wrong. It could be 129 being the next issue in the run that lowers that number, because I do have other issues below 130. That's the reason why the magic number is 106 and not 130. I'm trying to get CLZ to work with me here. Yeah, 129 is the next issue here. I got to find a decent copy at a nice good price for that to make that number goes down. And then let me go ahead and do this here. We're going to hide the poll for a second here, and we're going to hide the comments here because it goes across the screen here. We're getting closer and closer to having everything X-Men related here, because I don't believe the second series of X-Men has an ongoing series here. So issue 24 was the last issue in volume 6 here. So we're getting close to having everything in that second volume here. And on that note, that will end our collector's update here. Like I stated before, we might, because of the poll, we're probably going to be adding Ghost here, and we do have several Ghost issues already. So it would be across multiple volumes of Ghost before we could say that we have completely completed our run for that here as a whole. I was telling actually the Sunstrider clan, who was in the chat here, that I'm one issue away from having all of the Film Force up close. I'm just missing the issue number 1 now. So that's, buying the series in lots actually helps, especially when you could track them down and people have in sequence. It always helps, but that's pretty much what happens when you do what you do for the collector side here. So on that note, we're going to do the production update here. And in my hot little hand, I need to take that out because I don't want to dox myself here. And the thing that I need to take out here is the actual invoice. And I'm actually waiting for the other one to come in, but we finally got it. We finally got the corrected version of our foil for issue number 5. So we got good foils now. And when I say good foils, it's like this is the first one that came off the press that had all the writing and everything on every last page and everything here. So those who did not get the actual corrected version here, and they got the error one, if you want a actual regular one, let me know. Like I said, I'm still going to honor that as a whole here, and I'm still waiting to find out from Kablam on the Legends of the Giantess Slayer A cover number 1, because there was pages out of order in that one. So those who got it from us at C2E2, you got one of the error copies. You got an error copy because the pages were out of order. All the pages were there, but the first story had pages out of order. It's like page 2 and 3 were out of order. So it's like it threw people off here. So we finally got it corrected through the printers and everything. They're supposed to be sending me the corrected version of it before I could make certain that everything is good. And then when need be, we could go ahead and have those up and ready for the website and everything to that magnitude. And yes, for those who like to read things digitally, all the stuff is out there digitally on our website at assiduouslystudios.com. You can always buy our comics directly from us there, whether it be digitally in PDFs or physical copies here. And like I said, we always try to keep physical copies of our books at all times. So it's not like we only do shows where you can pick them up here. You can always buy it from assiduouslystudios.com. So that's the update here. I haven't really worked on the role-playing game this week here, but we're going to get back to writing this upcoming week here. I'm supposed to be going to storage on tomorrow before I could get things in order as far as books and series, and getting closer and closer to having which books are going to be sold and probably moved to Whatnot or for claim sales a little bit later. And we're going to start focusing more on getting people to our company website to buy books directly there, mainly because of the simple fact that some of these platforms are really not the best to promote your own creator-owned titles unless you have a big fan base that's actually there on those platforms here. And as of right now, we don't have that big of a presence or Whatnot as of yet. You know, eBay is eBay. You know, that's kind of like a hit or miss type deal. So our best bet as of right now is the company website of assiduouslystudios.com here. So that brings us to tonight's topic here, which is more things that might end up getting me canceled. Now, the very first thing that I want to discuss here is something that I have made mention several times over. And the more I look at people doing more and more examples of it, the more and more I'm up here thinking, you know what? AI in the right hands could be a very powerful tool, but AI in the hands of people who do not know the traditional aspects of art or the traditional aspect of cinematography to do videos, I feel kind of, how can I put this? I feel like they're going to be settling for very limited type things here. And when I say limited, I mean, if you don't know storyboarding, you can't really do very good AI videos. And people are going to, notice all these things that just seem off and everything. Now, doing AI movies and videos, when you have a great storyboarding background, you're going to catch and you want to modify those videos to the point where those things that people always catch, they're not going to be able to distinguish one way or the other. But that's the difference between having these tools in the hands of people who are being classically trained, as opposed to those who are just picking up the tool and just learning and doing what they can. The other thing with using the AI tools here is that I see a lack of imagination. And when I say lack of imagination is that the people, the characters, everything just look like, oh, they're just using stock photos of people with a little bit of altering because of the program that they're using. And I'm just like looking at mainly because DeviantArt nowadays is getting filled up with a lot of people doing the AI assisted tool type stuff. And it's becoming more and more obvious that the work that's being output on a daily basis, it used to be like, a person like myself who have a DeviantArt account, it's like once a week or maybe twice a week, I'm putting out new sketches and images and everything out there for people to look at and be like, yeah, this is what I'm working on and everything to that magnitude. I have actually pulled back based upon what they did with the accounts and how they use the stash function, where the stash function uses your work for their AI generated tool. So I was like, no, I don't want my work being used for their tools freely. So I have actually took a step back. So it's like none of the stuff for Primetime Saturday Night, none of the stuff for Amazonia is going there anymore, unless I'm using their AI generated tool just to be farting around, just to learn what other people are trying to do and get a better understanding of why people are complaining about the AI stuff as opposed to the traditional aspect of it. And that's the other thing. I wish more and more artists, classically trained artists, would take their time to use some of these AI tools before they speak. Or AI bad. It's like, yeah, AI is bad, but any tool in the right hands of of a true artist can be a very valuable tool. Now, AI is bad because of the simple fact that it costs too much money for a person like myself to be able to have like the program residing on a system that primarily has only my work. When I look at all these tools that they have out there for free, I don't trust it. Why am I going to put my work out there in the cloud and everything for anybody else to use to do variations and stuff on? If I have it in an enclosed environment, it might be a tool that might speed up things here, but you have to be honest about it. For the longest, people always thought with Primetime Saturday Night and Legends of the Giants and Slayers, like, oh, you using AI? It's like, no, I'm using DAW Studio. There's a big difference. I'm actually designing all this stuff. I'm actually, posing, doing all the graphical work by hand. And when I say by hand, I talk about literally mouse, keyboard, and everything to that magnitude. I'm not doing any type of prompts to say, do this. I'm literally creating the 3D environment. I'm literally creating the settings and the venues and everything, the lighting and everything that goes into those scenes, and rendering out panel by panel by panel by panel, as opposed to AI generated where I could just, tell it like just one little prompt to be like, okay, give me what your best estimate of this. And I get maybe like 3 to 5 different variations of that one thought. And I could probably, take 2 of them and make them 2 different panels in a comic book. It's not that simple. It's not that simple, doing it through DAW Studio, because I'm doing it literally by hand. But because I have actually tried to use these AI tools, I see that lack of imagination here, because those AI tools have to rely on what images that they have for reference, what stock photos they have for reference, or what other images that you may have for reference to try to emulate, not create, emulate, because it can't create anything for out of the blue. It does not think out the box here. What it does is it goes to try to find best matches of all these different elements that you mentioned in your prompt and try to do like a collage of everything, everything in one nice little picture. And for those who have been following when I talked about this stuff earlier, one of my major biggest complaints about AI generated image tools is that it has no idea of perspective. I mean, if you tell it to like an overhead view of, a woman who stands this tall, walking amongst the crowd and yada yada yada, the perspective is never there. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it's really really off, and sometimes it's like meh. And then a lot of times you still have to go in and correct things like as, the sixth toe, the sixth toe that a person might have, or the extra arm that's coming out because it tried to chop off this one figure from this one image and try to put it into your scene, not thinking how to correct all the anatomy and all the other stuff that could come into play. And it's weird. It's like AI generated tools is very, very weird in that aspect here. And then because you have stock photos, a lot of stock photos, it's like you're not getting a good variety of possible variations for like characters, people, and stuff to that magnitude. Everybody looks the same. Everybody has pretty much the same features and characteristics because you're limited to whatever stock photos that is built into that particular program. And then if you want to do your own thing based upon your own characters and everything, you're kind of stuck either paying thousands of dollars for said program for you can have it in a closed environment before you can use your own images, or you're going to bite the bullet and make your images available to the general public in the hopes that these programs could generate what you need here. And it's just one thing after another, and then after seeing what people are doing with videos now, I just get to the point where it's like some of these people just need to learn how to storyboard, because if you take certain scenes chunks and use the AI tools to say this, do this for so much, do that for so much, and and get to the point where you could actually understand different camera shots, different scenes based upon camera shots, while maintaining your base idea. It becomes a lot better, because I'm seeing a lot of these AI assisted videos now where they have characters and they have generated these characters and they have a specific look, and then it's like on one part of the scene it looks this way, and then you could tell that it's like, oh, the AI generator grabbed two different people that kind of look similar, but that they don't have the same features, and then they go back to the original scene and they look like the way it was in the very first scene. It's just like, yeah, the storyboarding, none of that stuff is working. The way that they're chopping it up is not working correctly as a whole here. It's close, but no cigar. And that's one of the major reasons why I'm not going to be on the hard no AI altogether, but I'm up here more along the lines like, if you're going to use it to the best of your ability. Start learning the traditional stuff to help you make what this tool can do really work for you. Everybody wants to work on all these different prompts and everything. Nobody wants to go back to learn storyboarding. Nobody wants to go back to learn perspective. Nobody wants to go back and learn the techniques that starts this whole process. Can't take the easy route all the time without knowing the bare basics. That's just the way life is, especially when it comes to art. You have to learn how to draw a straight line. You have to learn how to draw a circle. You have to learn how to draw a square. Then you learn how to draw things like cubes and spheres, and then eventually you get into drawing people and drawing trees and drawing livestock and all the other nice things as a whole here. But if you haven't done at least that much type of stuff here, how do you expect to be able to correct when the AI program does something strange? You just can't accept, having a person with a third arm or a fifth eye. You have to learn how to correct those things in other programs. It is what it is here. So that's one of the things that, like I said, one of the topics that might get me canceled. And the reason being is that, well, Joe, if you're not 100% against AI, why are you taking that attitude? It's like, I'm not against it because it's a tool. It does not take away from the knowledge that I have and the ability that I have to actually draw on Bristol board to make a comic book. Now, these tools, they're fine and dandy, but they're not for me. People, the developers of these programs, are really pushing it for those who choose not to learn how to draw on Bristol board. They choose not how to learn how to ink. They choose not how to learn how to color. They're choosing not to learn how to draw. They choose not to learn storyboarding. They choose not to get up with even with this even little Ricky Deek, digital video camera and going out there and actually recording videos to learn the craft, to learn something to bring to the table, to actually enhance their knowledge before going to a program like that. That's where my problem lies at. When you up here make things a little bit too easy for people, technique gets lost. And when technique gets lost, guess what? It doesn't come back around again until somebody else rediscovers it. And yeah, I use the word rediscover because a lot of times, when you think about the older craft like sculpting and arts of that caliber, techniques have to get rediscovered. Somebody had did something in the past that made something look ultra well, but those techniques sometimes get dead and buried because there's no one else picking up from where the originator of the technique was doing here. Not everybody does art the exact same way, and sometimes those techniques have to be rediscovered. And with modern innovation, we get away from the traditional old school techniques, but we still need to learn them. We still need to use them. We can still use them in conjunction with AI, but I don't see the AI taking over as a whole. It would be limited. It would be limited based upon the actual user of that particular program or interface. If they don't know how to draw, it's going to be very limited. But if they have a background, we haven't seen nothing yet that could be generated out of it. So it is what it is here. So the next topic, and this might be a little bit more controversial, and hopefully we get more people talking about this one because, like I said, at C2E2, I kind of made mention of it, but the more I think about it, why is there not too many dollar bin books anymore, especially with modern comics? And when I say modern comics, I talk about within like the last, from like 2020 to now. We have a lot of different series that came and gone and went and everything to that magnitude. And we don't see dollar bins anymore. Not the way that we were accustomed to for books from back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. More recent books maintain at least cover price, despite the fact that they did not sell well and that they become kind of like cannon fodder and all this other stuff in the bigger scheme of things here. And it seems more or less like books today, and when I say books today, I'm talking about from 2020 to now. People, when I say people, are going to primarily state brick and mortar stores, resellers, and the secondary market is a little bit more patient, and maybe paying that $4.99 for that issue instead of that $1 price tag. I mean, there's series and books that sits on the shelves, and I get it. One of the reasons why a lot of these smaller publishers are printing less and less volume of their books. Where we're so used to printing, having like the major companies printing anywhere between 50 and 100,000 copies. And when I say 50 to 100,000 copies, we're talking about from like 2000 to now. We got some of these smaller companies barely printing out 5,000 or 10,000 now. And even at those numbers, there's still enough books that could make it, to make it where if they weren't successful, that a dollar bin could be the resurgence. And when I say resurgence, I'm talking about resurgence of interest in those books. Maybe it wasn't the right time to bring these stories out and everything. But for some weird reason, books from 2020 to now, there's no such thing as a dollar bin for those books that don't really sell. They maintain at least their cover price. Is that a good thing? Probably not. Because again, when you look at the 1 in 25s, the 1 in 50s, the 1 in 100s, and all these different variants, some of the variants may come down in price, but not to the degree where they will reach dollar bin levels. And then a lot of the A cover stuff that should be dollar bin books, they still try to get cover price for them. And it's just the patience that brick and mortar stores have and resellers have and the secondary market as a whole have for these books. If there's not a big fan following for these series, it's just, I just don't get it. Back in the day, it's like a book that came out 2 or 3 years ago that was not successful and was not short printed eventually made it to like the dollar bin or the $2 boxes easily. Now you don't see books like One Star Squadron hitting a $1 box or a dollar pull. You really don't see it that often. You will see more of the Copper Age and the beginnings of modern back in like the early 2000s reaching it. But anything from 2020 to now, highly doubt it. And I just don't get why. Why are we having so much patience for the value of these books here? Especially when speculation for a lot of these books are at their all-time high for the wrong type of speculation. And when I say wrong type of speculation, it's like speculating because it got, picked up on option for a possible movie or television show or animated series. Those books don't really do as well as those that have actual staying power, that is making it on their own. And then on top of that, books from 2020 to now are now being ran more like limited series or seasons, to be quite honest. It's like 6 issues, that's the end of that season. Now we're going to go into season 2 that might have 6 or 7 issues in that season. And then it cuts off again, and then you might have a season 3. And I just, it's like I get the mentality, but my whole gut feeling here is, and maybe I'm wrong with judging a success of a series by whether or not it is ongoing or not. And to me, the whole season mentality is not exactly what I consider ongoing. Because technically you could write a season 1 in those 6 issues and then wait 4 or 5 years, and here comes season 2. In those 4 or 5 years, people will forget about that season 1 and don't remember half of the stuff that occurred. Now, does that create a buzz for your work? Maybe, maybe not. But that's the risk that you take, because if you're not constantly coming out with the next issue, people have a tendency to forget about your IP as a whole here. So, like I said, I wouldn't say familiarity, brings all of this other stuff about. It's just more along the lines of the aspect of what you have done for me lately. If you haven't given me any entertainment in that series in a recent time span, I have a tendency to forget it here. And that's a problem. And that's a major problem. And with taking that into consideration, those extra books from those so-called seasons, the value of them, wouldn't always be climbing upward. There's still means where they either flatline or go down, because the demand goes down for it. So it just makes me wonder why there has been such a lack of books from like 2020 to now not reaching dollar bin status. And it's just very, very weird. Now, mind you, like I said, I'm going based upon what I have seen at C2E2 this year. And I do take it for granted. I don't take it for granted, but I do take some things for granted. Some of the stuff that I was looking for this year at C2E2 that were recent stuff, people just didn't bring. And that also threw me for a loop. One of the things that I missed about Comic Cons of the old, and I'm not doing this as, being that guy that's like, we need to go back to the old days. I was like, no, it's like, I'm just kind of being a little bit more reminiscent. I understand the nature of the business more so now as a creator than I was as just a regular reader and collector. But even with the way that I was looking at it from this year, it's like everybody kept focusing on making certain people have their Grail books, having access to the older, harder to find stuff. Nobody really carried the newer books per se, at least not in the volume that if like, for example, if I missed like the last issue of X-Men, I couldn't get it at C2E2. Nobody would have had it because nobody would have brought more the recent books here. Now, if I was looking for X-Men 150 from volume 1, people had that book. If I was looking for Invincible #1, people had that book. But if I was looking for, it's like, what was the new book here? Oh yeah, I found out that, and I actually got a copy of it. If I was looking for Danny Moonstar #1, which just came out this week, they wouldn't have had it. I'm just using that as an example. They wouldn't have it at C2E2 because it just came out this week. But it just goes to show you that the more recent stuff were not available at a major show like that. And it's just kind of weird because when I look at bigger shows and the so-called collector friendly type shows, the emphasis on publishers and newer books or the most recent books go away. And then what we see in possible dollar bins and $2 bins and quarter boxes and 50-cent boxes are books that are usually forgotten about, or what that particular store have in surplus. Not necessarily things that are just recent that is worth the cover price of it, but it just seems like things from like even 6 years ago, it's just not hitting those $1 and $2 boxes. I just don't get it. And the demand for some of these books are not as high. because a lot of those series, even 6 years ago, they have tapered and waned away. So I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. And I'm saying don't get it as far as the collector aspect of it, but I get it from the more business aspect of it because in the bigger scheme of things, you always want to sell your wares for the biggest bang for your buck, meaning that you want to put it at a price point where it's fair to both you, where you can make money, and fair for your customers to enjoy it. I mean, it is what it is. I have seen people charge $150, $250 for signed sketch books, from CGC, from artists. And I'm up here, it's like, it's like you could get one of mine for 80. I really not going to, try to price gouge because I felt like 80 was fair, especially for the newer stuff that I'm putting out there. It's like 80 is fair because, I'm putting, somewhere close to about like $40 into each book to get it, signed and authenticated. Can I have to sign affidavits and all this other stuff here? And yeah, I could charge more for the actual artwork that I put on these books. And then on books such as, and let me see if I have it. Yeah, there it is. And books such as like this, where I'm actually putting it on an actual Storm #1. And yeah, there's something on the back of it as well. But when I do stuff like that as a whole here, yeah, I could charge a whole boatload worth of money. But in the bigger scheme of things here, I want people to be able to enjoy the book itself. That is a Storm #1. If I got a copy of Storm #1, it's a 9/8, and I put my artwork on it, and you like the artwork that I put on it, why not enjoy it? I don't have to price gouge, but that's just me and my nature here. I know that the work that I put into it, I could charge a lot more money for it. But I also want to do stuff for those who are actual fans of the work, fans of the character, fans of the story. Sometimes it cannot always be about the artwork and the creative force behind the artwork. It has to be something that is fair. And that's what makes me, think about that last part about why haven't books from 2020 to now reached that level? Because you don't have to go a full year. It's like we're almost in the middle of 2020, and there's a lot of books that have came out in those 6 years. Now, I'm not up here saying that Dork One should be in a dollar bin box. No, that's not what we're saying here. But we got books from like 2020, 2021, 2022 that are no longer popular. No longer popular. Most of them are at that $5 price point, and they're not moving. We should see more of those titles moving towards the dollar territory to keep to give them a second life, to get to kick it, to have it kick around a little bit more and have people rediscovering them. But that is not happening, and it just makes me wonder why. And it makes me wonder about the secondary market, because if in the secondary market back in the day, and when I say back in the day, is like 90s, 2000 and stuff to that magnitude, those dollar boxes were a resurgence of a lot of different series and made people rethink about a lot of the books that we slept on. And when we start thinking about those books that we started to sleep on, it created that demand in the secondary market aspect for people to be able to raise the prices back. But when you do not have that as a whole, at least not within this last couple of years, it makes me wonder what is going on. It makes me think, Are we accepting these price points because it is what it is, or are we still stuck in FOMO emotional buying? But, it is what it is here. It is what it's going to be. But it's something to really think about, especially as a collector, especially if you're buying ongoing series such as like Amazing Spider-Man and everything to that magnitude. As much as we complain about bad stories and bad artwork and all this other stuff that makes you want to leave a series, we have to think about, why are some of these books not going back to the dollar bin? Doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with the books, but this time in the sun is gone. I'm not saying devalue everything within 2020 to now, but surplus of books and keeping it around just in the hopes that somebody would rediscover it at its actual cover price just seemed kind of crazy, especially in the climate of today with it financially so. But it just makes me want, like I say, it makes me wonder why that's not happening like it was back in the day. Now, somebody could come in and say, "Hey, Joe, you might want to think about this." And I'd be greatly appreciative if you had a viewpoint like that. Because I'm up there, it's like, you know what? Maybe I haven't thought about that. But I understand from the business aspect of it, if you do have that amount of patience for it, and you're willing to take, to go a lot longer in the overhead of maintaining, housing, and storing those extra copies of those issues, I get it. But then again, I also understand one other aspect too, at least for brick and mortar stores. Brick and mortar stores do not overbuy anymore. And what I mean by overbuy, let's just say it's like let's say like you're a brick and mortar store owner of comics. You got maybe about like 300 customers that come in that have pull, that and those 300 customers, out of those 300 covers, maybe like 150 to like 180 have pull boxes. You know exactly how many issues that you need to cover, whatever is in your pull, each and every week. Usually you buy somewhere between 20 to 30% over that, which usually is somewhere about 10, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 50 over the normal for your pulls. Because you have people that straggle in from time to time, be like, "Oh, I need to get that new issue of Batman." You got it right over there. They come and grab it off the rack, pay their money, and they're off on their merry way. So when you're getting closer and closer to that exact number, I get it. Why sometimes they don't have as much overhead as what we think that they should have. I get that. That's why I said the business side of it, I get. But even with that being said, it's still baffling me that we don't see more and more of those books hitting the dollar bins. And to be quite honest, I'm wondering if any of these modern books ever would hit a dollar bin aspect of it. I mean, do we have to wait until what 2046 before they go into the dollar bin? Somebody tell me. It's like this secondary market here, really tells me a lot about people's buying habits and why certain things happen the way that they do. It just, it's kind of like really weird and really, really in this vacuum. And when I say in this vacuum, I mean, it's like in a vacuum isolated by itself. You see copper age books not escaping from it. And then as things, get hyped up and FOMO hits and everything, those books that were once dollar bin books move back up to $5 books to $10 books. We don't see that happening with the more recent modern stuff over a 5 year period. And that's the reason why I was picking on between 2020 and now. I'm not saying the stuff that's coming out now in 2026 to be in dollar bins, no. But things in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, some of the stuff in 2024 or 2025, you got some wiggle room. I can see you still being patient to try to get cover price for that stuff. But 2020, 2021, 2022, why aren't we seeing those books in dollar bins more often? Just saying. I mean, again, this is business, and everybody's trying to stay afloat, and they're trying to get as much money for whatever product that they sell. I get it. That's not why I'm asking that question. It's just more along the lines of to have a proper resurgence, like we see with copper books and bronze books and the reader copies of silver. They are in dollar bins, $2 bins, $3 boxes. And people come, pick them up, grab them, and then there's a resurgence of, hey, I'm back into Justice League. Let me go ahead and buy all of these Justice League books. It is what it is. So we have that one talked about and everything. And then the last thing here. This one kind of hurts because it really it's like it kind of grinds my gears, but at the same time I look at how people address their audience, and yeah, it's dealing with audiences here. I see people who really talk down to their audience. I see people who try to overhype up their audience for things and books to give them FOMO, to buy more into a particular type of book, which they may or may not be interested in. I mean, I just want to get to the point where I feel like those who do podcasts like mine allow the people who are in the chat to have their voice. We don't have to preach to them. We don't have to be like, hey, you have to get this because this is the next hottest thing out here. I like hearing what you guys like. I like hearing what you guys get hyped up for. I like it when you could tell me why you like a particular title. Because if you like something and you could pique my interest, guess what happens? You might get me to go ahead and read X, Y, and Z and make me a fan, where I could be like, you know what? You're right. I like it too. And that's where the positivity is missing in a lot of the audiences as of right now. We got so political and, political, ideologic, all this other stuff that to me really doesn't put a finger on what you truly like. If you like Spider-Man, tell us why you like Spider-Man. If you like a particular issue of Spider-Man, tell people why you like that issue. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you have to be a Spider-Man fan like me. It's like, no. If I like Spider-Man, I like Spider-Man. We all could come to the table and read Spider-Man books together and just enjoy Spider-Man. If you like Santa Claus and you like Santa Claus comics, tell me why you like those Santa Claus comics. Pique my interest. I might go ahead and start looking at them. That's the whole thing. We got to get to the point of getting back to why we like and love what we love. Let's stop worrying about value. Now, mind you, you got those who are investors, and I get it. Dollars and cents is eventually going to win out eventually. because again, this is a hobby, and this is the hard thing about it. I create things for a what is considered a hobby to most here. And you have to have discretionary funds to partake in the hobby. Now, one of the things that, like I said, going back to the audience, one of the things that I hope that audience understands is that you're going to have people like me who are going to still do the comics for the fact of storytelling and art's sake and not really be overly worried about the dollar and cents end of it and keep pushing and keep going despite the fact. Then you got others who are just going to say, I came out with my issue 1. I barely came out with issue number 2. I did not make X, Y, and Z money. I see it as a failed venture. Those people have a different aspect of why they're in this business here. I'm more along the lines, I got stories to tell. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to try to do my best to tell that story the best that I can, as fast as I can, based upon the production money that I have here. And I don't work, I don't work with a whole bunch of money. I have to do it piecemeal. Do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and lo and behold, it's like we have primetime Saturday night getting a role-playing game. Only 6 issues in, but we had a good positive response here that people see it as a possible game changer. And people were willing to come and help and work and put the ideas down on paper, and we're almost finished. Now, one of the things that I do that have been saying as of late, and those who have been on my mailing list have known, I have given up crowdfunding on the same aspect of about an audience. Sometimes you have to understand where your audience are located, what they like, what they don't like. I mean, people are up there. It's like, well, my crowdfunding campaign is not successful because I didn't get $12,000. I consider a campaign successful if you're able to produce your books and be able to have enough where you can sell them. That's, to me, a successful campaign. For example, if you got a goal of $2,000 and you made your goal and you hit your goal and got to $3,000, to me, that's a successful campaign. Because why? That $3,000 is going to help you get those books into people's hands. And then you're going to have extra copies to take to shows, to talk to people, to get on the interwebs and start talking to people as a whole, to say, look at what I created. I am so proud of this and I want to share this story with you. That's the key thing. But the thing about it here too is that your audience, the people who are looking for that story, may not be, if I could say in this aspect, customers of the platform that you're going to. Like in my case, you guys sometimes don't really do Kickstarter. And because you don't do Kickstarter as much, I'm not able to generate the money there to keep things rolling in a consistent clip. And then in addition to that, I saw extra overhead. And when I say extra overhead, I'm talking about, we're doing extra stickers and poster prints and all this extra stuff to build up the product a lot better before we could ask for that higher dollar value. And that goes a long way. That means that we have to have extra bookmarks. We have to have extra 8x11 prints on hand. We have to have all of this extra stuff that still costs us money and overhead and storage, which technically we can't take to shows per se and sell to, because we have to make them exclusive for the Kickstarters or whatever, Fund My Comic or Indiegogo, whatever crowdfunding platform that you have here. And if your fans, the people who like your books, are not there and they really don't respond to that, you have to look at it as like, well, why are you pitching so hard on that platform? Why don't you go to where they're at? If your people are at all the comic book shows, do the comic book shows. That's perfectly fine. I'm not saying, you have to always crowdfund to get your money and do X, Y, and Z. If you're financially off or you have a good plan to get the books and everything done and printed and, the way that you need to have it done, meet your audience where they're at. If they're at comic book shows, do it at comic book shows. If your audience are on YouTube, come here, pitch your books, tell them where to find it, how to get to it, do all the things necessary. There's nothing for you to not sit here and be like, buy my latest issue of Amazonia. We're going to have it on this website, that website. Meet your audience where they are at. They will appreciate you for it, because there's going to be people that be like, I don't want to go out to Kickstarter. I want to buy it directly from you. I don't want to, create an account over here just to buy your book. Why can't I get it directly from you? Meet your audience where they're at. Listen to them. They know where to find you. They know how to ask you those questions. They know how to complain to you if something's not right. You just have to pay enough attention and understand where they're at. It'll be nice to have Uber fans that will follow you everywhere. We all want that as creators, to have droves and droves of Uber fans. It's like if you go over there to Comixology, they're there, knocking down the door trying to get your stuff at Comixology, or they try to knock down the doors to get your stuff on the company website. Or if you do a Kickstarter, they're the ones that's telling everybody else to be like, hey, buy the $150 package on the Kickstarter, you won't regret it. Those are nice to have. And like I said, nice to have. But you have to grow into that. And when I say you have to grow into that, you have to pay attention to those fans and those who are paying attention to your work. Treat them right. Meet them where they're at. You can't make somebody overnight spend $80 on your work off of a one-time deal. You want to have people who really like your stuff and want to come back for that next issue. Hopefully you get to the point where that next issue will be a month or 2 months from now. Hopefully you get to the point where you get some distribution where it is 30 days between issues, and that you have built up your catalog and library to the point where you could do monthly books or quarterly books or bi-monthly books. But you have to pay attention to your fans. You have to pay attention to your audience. You have to pay attention to them, because they're going to tell you. It's like, man, I'm ready for it. I have people tell me, I'm waiting for issue number 8 of Amazonia. I'm ready for issue number 6 of Primetime Saturday Night. I had people tell me that at C2E2 while picking up, Legends of the Giantess Slayer. That was the one thing that made my heart happy, is that people picked up Legends of the Giantess Slayer. That was a project that I was afraid that it was going to fail. But I listened to people. I listened to those who followed my work. They said, it's good. Let us really, read it and everything, and we will tell you. If it's junk, it's junk. And they would tell you. If it sucked, if it really sucked, they would tell you it really sucked. That's the reason why what happened with issue number 5 with Primetime Saturday Night with the pages. That's why I say I got to make it up to you guys. I don't want people to feel like we cheated you out of story because of misprints. Yeah, error copies of comic books can be worth money, but I want you to read the full story. I want you to read it unedited, unadulterated, as it is. So that's the reason why I say I have no problem with replacing them. You already bought into it. Why not give you a clean copy of it? Why do you think I went through the whole process of making certain that the foils are absolute now? Because if you're going to pay like the $20 to $30 for a foil, I want to make certain that you get the best foil there is. Because I owe that to you as my fan. I have to listen to you. This is the one thing that a lot of people were giving. I hate to bring up. I know. This is a poor time to bring this up, but this was the point that Dan Slott was trying to make many years ago about being a customer. Everybody thinks that they are a customer just by walking through the door. You're not officially a customer until actually you bought something or in the negotiating portion of services being rendered. In our case, in comics, once you buy the comic, you are a customer. And when you buy that comic and read it and you're not satisfied, I have to listen. The reason why I have to listen is because you are partaking in the service that I'm providing. I'm in the business of storytelling. If the story is not clear, I need to listen about why it's not reaching you, why you're not understanding the story, or if you don't like how a character is, or if you hate how something looks. I have to listen. Now, on the contrary, if you just a passerby, you picked up the book, you flipped through it, and you set it back down, and you said that you got all of these other problems with the book, I don't have to listen. You're not a customer. You're just an observer. Now, some of the things I might take with a grain of salt here and give you a benefit of the doubt. And may think about it. But if you bought that book, I have to sit down because I want you to continue reading. I want you to be able to pick up that next issue. I want to meet you where you're at as far as how I'm telling the story and how you are receiving the story. That's the major difference. That is how you build your audience, how you truly understand them. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to come by and be like, oh, that's not for me. That's not my thing. And deep down, they know that they wanted to partake in it. But once they do, you can't shrug off and be like, oh, that's just the way that I write. If you don't like it, take it. It's like, no. You have to take the good with the bad. You got to take the cynical with the creative comments. You got to take the tongue lashing and the bashing, just like you have to take all the kudos. Once they have bought into your books, you listen. You have no other choice. Now, for those who don't, you take time for what you have time for. That was the lesson that Dan Slott was trying to tell people many moons ago before he got into all the philosophical type stuff with them. Especially during the time of how they just didn't like Spider-Man and what he was doing with Spider-Man and everything to that magnitude. It's a difference when he finds out that you bought his book. He took the time to hear you out. If he finds out that you didn't, you got the snarky comments. Was the snarky comments needed? No. You could be nice and be like, thank you, thank you for your suggestion and keep it pushing. But when you buy into it, he had to listen. You have to take that stop and listen. Or else you lose that customer. And that's the key thing here. Building that audience takes time. It takes dedication. It takes being upfront. It takes being consistent. It takes, having that thick skin as well as that thin skin. You have to have that thick skin for those things that are really, really wrong. And then you have to have that thin skin for those that fall outside of that category of being a active participant. But that's the bottom line with all of this here. We need to get back to one, being positive, two, being accountable to those people who buy your comic, and three, hearing them out completely. I mean, you tell me. I could be completely wrong on that. I mean, you guys are watching this broadcast and everything, and you can say, no, Joe, you're absolutely wrong. You need to make certain that this, that, and the other happens. I'm here to hear you. I'm here to listen. And those who comment and everything, all you guys matter to me. You do. Because the greater majority of you have actually bought books and stuff for me, so you matter. Those that still haven't bought any books for me, I take things on a constructive criticism type aspect here, and your comments matter to a degree. I don't belittle people whether or not they buy or not, but I take it in its proper context. That's the reason why I say my show is open door. It's your unadulterated access to me as a creator, writer, publisher. When I have those Ask Joe's episodes, I open up that door where you can ask me anything that is crazy and off the wall about things that I have read, have created, working on, even stuff within stories here. How I come up with names like the Southside Curse Dump in Primetime Saturday Night, or I think the weirdest question that I have is, how come you never talked about a significant other for Elisa in Amazonia as of yet? And I had to take that step back. It's like, technically I did, but I haven't brought that person to the forefront just as of yet. But those are the types of things that I said is true engagement, when I know that people are fully invested into the stories and everything. And I love talking about that type of stuff. Just like how I really want to get to that second story arc where I could talk about about her mom's origin and what she really is. One of the things that I used to pitch Elisa and this version of Amazonia as is that she's kind of like a reverse Wonder Woman. And people are up there, it's like, what do you mean by a reverse Wonder Woman? And I explain it to them, and they kind of get it. But I want to get to that second story arc where it could be fully revealed to everybody what I mean by a reverse Wonder Woman. But saying all that to say is these are the types of things that I try to bring to you, my fans, the people who watch the live streams, anybody who engages with me on this show as my audience. You know, it's not easy coming out here each and every week to have something brand new each and every week to talk about and to keep people engaged and everything to that magnitude. That's the reason why we have segments such as new comic book pickups of the week. This is the reason why I have added things such as the collector's update, because what's the purpose of showing new comic book pickups of the week when you guys don't know what I'm actually collecting? And I'm giving you snippets of things that you can ask about and talk about. You know, I'm not the best of everything out here. It's like if you ask me about investing in comics, I'm like, I'm not an investor. I'm more of a preservationist. But I do know some good resources, and I could tell you some good podcasters to start listening to, because it is a lot of dollars and cents type stuff out there that is very good for people to look into. And most of these people who do the dollars and cents aspect of it are the ones that do have brick and mortar stores that understands that aspect of collecting here. My forte is, collecting these books at a nominal fee and building up libraries. And when I say building up libraries, I'm talking about like I was doing with Wonder Woman, everything from volume 1 to now. X-Men, everything from volume 1 to now. And when I say X-Men, I'm talking about Uncanny from 1963 to now. I'm trying to do that. So far, it's like you guys are saying Ghost, but we only try to do that with Ghost here. I did that with Spider-Woman. I did that with Miss Marvel. I did that with several different series. I can't tell you what my next step is, but the one thing that I can tell you is that collecting all these series are not just going in vain just because I want to say I have them. There is an altruistic vision that I have here, because each one of these books, like Wonder Woman 250, has an imprint in history for just the character and the story that needs to be talked about in its proper context. Whether or not it comes to fruition depends on a lot of other things here. But I haven't got there yet. Just like I haven't got to distribution for better distribution, I should say, for SCGC Studios books. All of this is a work in progress. And I just hope that you guys are enjoying the ride that we've been on over the last couple of decades here. And it's sad. I should say it's sad. It's interesting. It's been a kind of a hardship here. But here's the other thing. Come December 2028, it's kind of hard to believe that we would have been in business for about 20 years. It went by like that. That's the whole thing. That's the journey. That's how you know that you're in it for the long haul. I kind of wish my catalog was bigger, but then again, I do have to work my 9 to 5 because I have bills to pay, got food to need food to eat. I need shelter to be able to draw on these Bristol boards, to be able to scan on this scanner over here, to be able to use my pen tablet to ink the stuff, to then get somebody to color it, then come back and letter it, then to have somebody like Elaine proofread it to not only just copy edit it, to be like, Joe, you mentioned this over here on page 8, page 18. This has nothing to do with any of the prior issues here. Why are you doing that? All of that comes into play. Because once it's done and it's ready, we're going to put our best foot forward here to always knock it out of the box each and every issue. That's just the way things are. Now, other people might, have jokes and stuff and all this other stuff and keep you entertained here. Only thing I could do is just keep it 100 and keep it in the raw. You know, I do have my joking moments and everything, but just to say, I'm serious about what we put out there. I'm happy that we're several issues already into Legends of the Giant Slayer where I don't have to worry about, well, I have to write issue number 2. I am working on issue number 4 already. When I say working on it, I mean like literally could almost format the 4th issue with stories that we have already done in chapters already. So we're getting there. I need to really buckle down on these Bristol boards here because, one of the things that has been hindering me is been like this drawing block that I've been having. It's like I get ready to draw on the Bristol board and be like, oh, I gotta go over here and do this. I gotta go over to do that. I gotta force myself to get back to drawing here. So with that being said here, I don't have anything else for the topic for tonight's topic as far as things that might get me canceled here. So if you got topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments here. You want to know what I truly think? Let me know in the comments, whether it be on the live chat, if you're watching on the replays and everything. I read everything. I try to comment it as best as I can. Heck, I have even done tutorial videos for people who ask me questions about how to use some of the AI tools and some of the stuff that I mentioned about AI tools. So I do take the time to make certain that you understand exactly where things are at and where I'm coming from and how things work. So thank you guys so much for answering the poll over there. And if you want to, you can still answer it after the show is over with on the replay. I would take it in consideration. And it looks like it will be Ghost would be the next one that we'll do the graphics and everything and have that as an updated status for that particular series here. And like I said, we're several issues into that, but we're not really close to completing it, anytime soon here. But at least now I have like a goal and a focus to start looking for that particular series more often, to be like, this is where we're at. This is how we're covering X, Y, and Z here. So on that note, we're going to bring this episode to an end here. Thank you for watching and everything. Don't forget to hit the notification bells, hit the subscribe if you love what you see here. And I'll see you guys here next Saturday, right here on this channel, for another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. As I always say, live life, grow, and be well. For my East Coast people, I'm giving you back probably about 27 to 25 minutes of your Saturday. For everybody else, go enjoy your Saturday, and I'll catch you next week. Bye.